This is the first substantial time that I've had, frankly, back on campus since I left in 1988. And I would just say through the course of today, the changes I've seen and frankly, the facilities that are now around us are nothing short of breathtaking. So it's wonderful to be back. And I'm confident that the experience that you're having is as good and as rewarding as the experience that I had when I was here at when it was then called GMI. I want to do a number of things today. It's a little intimidating to think about trying to share information with you that you may find in some way to be helpful for you as you think about your career. But I thought it would be helpful for me to kind of go through some of the experiences that I've had and some of the things that I've learned frankly, over the last 30 plus years. Before I do that, I want to tell you just a little bit about myself, just to give you some perspective of where I came from and just a bit about my family. So I graduated from high school in 1983. You may not know anyone who graduated from high school in 1983. It was a while ago. Came immediately to what was then GMI Engineering and Management Institute, and was very proud to graduate with my BSEE in 1988. I then went to work as an engineer and then followed that up by going to the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, where I got my MBA, and I graduated in 1992. Now, personally, for me, myself, I married Rebecca, my wife, in May of 1994, and we have two wonderful children. Our son Andrew was born in '98. Our daughter was born in 2000. And we were very, very happy to celebrate the wedding of our son late last year in 2025. So I've got a wonderful family that has been with me for what has been a career path, which has been filled with a lot of moves and, frankly, a lot of adventures around the world. I want to tell you just a little bit about the assignments and the work that I've experienced post-Kettering. And I'll start out with and just say that most of the time, really the first 20 plus years of my career were with General Motors and the component spinoff from General Motors, Delphi Automotive Systems. When I came out of GMI, I went to work as a product development engineer, spent a couple of years in a development environment, actually worked on chassis electronic systems, electric power steering, anti-lock braking systems, things that are very standard now, but were very revolutionary when I worked on those items. I was awarded a General Motors fellowship to attend business school, which I did for a couple of years. And then, frankly, I went on a bit of a career roller coaster ride for 20 years with General Motors. I started out with General Motors post-business school in the corporate financial staff, which was at that time located in Midtown Manhattan, 57th and 5th Avenue in New York City. Worked there for a couple of years, came back from there, worked in corporate development, where I worked on joint ventures and acquisitions in India and in China, and actually lived in India for a short period of time during that time frame. I came back and was given the opportunity to go into manufacturing operations. And at that time, General Motors had an arrangement with Toyota where they had an exchange program for executives. So I spent a year working for Toyota at a Toyota assembly plant in order to learn the Toyota production system and manufacturing techniques associated with that. I came back and was the plant manager for a facility in Athens, Alabama. That was a 3,200 person automotive component facility in northern Alabama. From there, I went to Europe and I was responsible for Delphi in Europe, worked at Delphi's corporate headquarters in Europe, which was just outside of Paris, France. I had subsidiaries and operations in France, Germany, Poland, Italy, and Spain. Did that for several years. And then I came back and was a senior vice president and general manager responsible for what was the steering business within Delphi Automotive Systems. So did that through 2009. Now, there's a pretty important event that happened between 2005 and 2009 that had a tremendous impact on me personally, which is a big part of the automotive industry including the part I was working for, went bankrupt. So I found myself 20 years out of school in a situation where I had to go find a job. And it was put me in a pretty unique situation. I was very fortunate to find a company called Danaher Corporation, which is a diversified industrial company. And I had 3 different Danaher president roles over about 9 years. I was responsible for an industrial automation business that was headquartered in Virginia. I was responsible for a company called Tektronix. Any double E's in the audience, you may work with Tektronix oscilloscopes, digital signal processors. That company was in Portland, Oregon. I had responsibility for that. And then I worked for another company called X-Rite Pantone, which manufactured and sold color management equipment. And that was located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So we bounced around a bit. And in 2017, I was approached by the private equity firm KKR. And KKR gave me an offer. They said, we'll put up to $250 million behind you if you'll help us identify, find, and purchase a company. And you can be the CEO of that company post-transaction, but you have to help us find that organization. So we searched for 6 or 7 months, and we finally landed on a company that I'm currently the CEO of, and that is Hyperion Materials and Technologies. And I'll tell you more about that just through the course of this discussion. So I've had a pretty broad number of assignments across a number of industries. I also just recently joined the board of a company called Michelman, which is a chemicals company located in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I want to just give you just a brief flavor for the company that I'm running now, this Hyperion Materials and Technologies. So we're about $600 million in revenue. So we're not a huge company, but we're substantial in terms of our size. But what we focus on is the construction, the engineering, and the sale of highly engineered materials that are either hard or super hard. You may say, well, what's the difference between a hard material and a super hard? Super hard material are typically synthetic diamond or cubic boron nitride or diamond-like materials. Hard materials are tungsten carbides, ceramics, things that have large impact resistance or wear resistance. So the company is owned by KKR or Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, which is a large private equity firm. We are a leading material science provider across a number of areas. And just to give you a perspective, we're a pretty global company. Our $600 million in revenue is split between the Americas, where we have about 38% of our revenue, Europe 42%, and Asia 20%. And we serve a number of industries, from the automotive industry to food and beverage, oil and gas, aerospace. You see the list. We're a pretty diversified organization. I won't bore you with the details because frankly, it is a bit boring. But at the end of the day, we are a company that can provide our customers, who are typically tool makers, with materials that have specific characteristics. So Boeing, for instance, is a large customer of ours. If Boeing wants to do something to machine or form a component within the airframe of an aircraft, they would work with us, or frankly, one of our competitors, to procure a specific material that would be engineered for the drilling or the milling or the forming associated with that operation. So we sell these highly engineered products, typically made of tungsten carbide or synthetic diamond, or in some case, ceramics that go into a wide range of tools. Just to give you one very specific example from the right side of the page, there are about 400 billion aluminum cans that are made every year. 40% of those aluminum cans are made with Hyperion engineered and built tooling that we sell to can manufacturers. So that's a vertical market where our highly engineered material is used for a specific solution for a customer in the industrial space. Now, we have about 2,200 employees around the world in 17 different facilities. Those facilities are either sort of clustered in the industrial Midwest, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Pennsylvania, or they are in Western Europe. We have 2 plants in France, a plant in Germany, a plant in Italy, 2 plants in Spain, and a facility in Stockholm in Sweden. We have only 1 facility in Asia, in Taiwan, and we have 1 facility in South America. Now, as I'll share with you in just a moment, we're very acquisitive. We're in the process of acquiring a lot of operations, and within the next 3 months, we'll have a couple more operations in Asia. Now, we've been very focused on buying other companies and bringing them into the Hyperion family. And a big part of my job as the CEO has been to identify companies that we want to acquire, to cultivate relationships, to acquire those companies, and then bring them into the Hyperion family. And I'm very proud to say that since we became an independent company, we have purchased 11 other companies and added them to our network of operations. So our objective is to build the first billion-dollar independent hard and super hard materials company with a presence that is equally balanced between the Americas, Europe, and Asia. That's where we're trying to go with the organization, and we think we've got an outstanding plan to do so over the next couple of years. So that's what I do all day long. I work at Hyperion, and I try to bring to bear all the things that I've learned through the course of my career to that job. But what I want to do now is pivot from talking about that specific organization or my background, and I want to talk some more or shift the conversation and talk to you about some of the lessons that I've learned, and frankly, in a humble way to perhaps give you some advice that could be helpful as you think about your career and your future. And the format I want to use for this is the following. I want to start with what I thought when I was sitting in a chair similar to yours in 1988, and frankly, what I've learned since that time. And I want to step through 3 specific areas and give you some examples, again, just as a means of perhaps some humble advice. The first thing that I thought back in 1988 was that a career, it's a linear path where you go to school, you get an education, you use that education, and you progress through a series of stair steps that are typically with maybe 1 or 2 organizations, and stair steps that would be relatively predictable and defined. What I have found, and frankly, what I would tell you, is that your career will be 10 times more unpredictable than you could ever imagine. And frankly, that may be 100 times more unpredictable. I never imagined, frankly, coming out of school, that my company would go bankrupt and I would have to go find a job when I was 45 years old. Never occurred to me in a million years. The greatest thing that has ever happened to me in terms of the opportunities it has opened up. What I would tell you is, and as an engineer, thinking about this discussion, I said, I want to try to map this out. If you think about the various functions across a company, from engineering to sales and marketing to manufacturing, supply chain, general management, corporate finance, corporate business development, and CEO, those are all sort of various roles. And I tried to take the chronology that I shared with you a few moments ago to think about what I have done or what I have been through over the last 30 years. Again, totally unpredictable. I would have never thought that this could be the career path that I had. And frankly, I never in a million years anticipated that in the middle of my career, my company would literally go under and I would have to go find another job. Really, the call to action that I would have for you to think about and not stress about is that a career arc is almost never linear. You can expect that you're going to have a career which will cross multiple functions, multiple geographies, and frankly, will be incredibly interesting. What I'm here to tell you, and you'll hear this a couple of times during this discussion, is that one of the most important things that you can do is get yourself in a situation where you feel very comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you can achieve that, you can have success because you can give yourself the ability to move between various functions. So, lesson one for me, again, the career path isn't linear. So, the second area I want to talk about is what I thought in 1998 about how to be successful at work. And at that time, I thought that my job proficiency and my competence, basically what I knew and how I applied what I knew, would be the determinant for how successful I was in my career. What I've learned is that being proficient is incredibly important. This is not an advertisement for incompetence. But what I've learned are that communication skills, interpersonal skills, your ability to relate to people, to exhibit emotional intelligence, to be able to communicate, those are the things that are truly differentiators with respect to the path that you will have and the success that you will enjoy. And I try to divide this into maybe some things to think about early in your career and later in your career. In the earlier career stage, and by early career, I would say under 30. Let's just pick that as sort of an arbitrary line. The accumulation of technical and vocational skills is incredibly important. Learn as much as you can, because just to share a dirty little secret with you, you will learn better today, much better, a skill or information than you will learn when you are my age. Take advantage of your existing neuroplasticity to cram in as many technical skills and vocations that you can. Second, begin to develop this ability to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable. If you can do that, and that was one of the most difficult things, frankly, for me to do, you will allow yourself to experience things that aren't customary and things that are outside of your comfort zone, but will be just fascinating experiences for you and frankly for your family and for others around you. So I just think it's critical to don't go home every night seeking comfort. Go home every night seeking something that is rewarding. And comfort or discomfort will likely be paired in whatever you're experiencing. The third thing I would tell you in terms of your early career development is to get an experience where you are leading or managing people as soon as you possibly can. One of the most important things, and frankly, one of the most difficult things that most people, in my experience, encounter is the challenge of holding other people accountable. Holding other people, other teams accountable for delivering performance and delivering to the commitments that they have made. And the world is littered with very smart, proficient, good people who never learned how to hold either themselves or others accountable. My advice to you is, as quickly as you can, put yourself in a position where you have people reporting to you, that you're working with, that you can drive that level of accountability so it becomes something which is natural to you. Now, your later career development is, I think, characterized by an interesting shift. At some point, your career will likely shift away from what you work on to how you work. And it's a bit of a subtle shift, and it happens over time. But typically, as you become a manager or a leader in an organization, or you're more involved in strategy and development, that shift will occur. And I think it's characterized, and there are a couple of areas that are important for you to work on in order to manage that shift. First is think about how well do you communicate. After the age of about 30 in your career, an incredible amount of the work that you do will be interacting with and trying to convince others of a specific course of action. Make sure that your communication skills are things that you are working on and refining. It will be important as you progress. Second, focus on your technical problem-solving skills. Learn those skills early, but deploy them often as you move through your career. You would be shocked at the lack of problem-solving, good basic problem-solving skills that exist across the managerial spectrum. Third, ask yourself and assess for yourself how well you can relate to and work with other people. At the end of the day, people like working with people they like working with. And your responsibility, frankly, as you move on through your career, if you want to be successful, is to make sure that you are measuring and assessing your ability to relate to and work with those around you. Again, it's a part of those interpersonal skills that I think are a very, very important part of the skill set that you have. Second piece of advice for later career development is don't stop seeking novelty in your assignments. I have a lot of friends who got to 35 or 40 years of age. They were proficient in a specific area, and they just decided that for the rest of their career, they wanted to focus on that area. And that can be fine. If that's what they want to do, that's okay. In my view, there's more value in continuing to seek novelty and change as you go through your career, because I think you'll find it more rewarding. And then finally, and this is pretty basic, third point is with respect to time management. You are going to encounter through your career, you're going to be around a lot of super capable people like all of you who are here today. One of the differentiating factors is how much stuff you can get done within a given period of time. And I will tell you that it's not just about working hard. It's the proverbial advice about working smart. A specific piece of advice that I would give to you is if you haven't been exposed to the author, he's actually he's a PhD and is a professor at MIT, a guy named Cal Newport. He wrote a book called Deep Work, which is all about time boxing techniques and techniques for people to use in order to be more efficient with their time. It becomes critically important. My job as a CEO right now, I am oversubscribed 24/7. I understand my ability to be effective is dependent on how well I can be disciplined and effective in getting things done within a specific period of time. So my advice in this area is just remember that your career priorities and the skill sets that will be required for you will change over time. Make sure that you are assessing and applying the right skills that are important for that particular phase in your career. All right, the third thing that I would just give you as some advice with respect to what I've learned is with respect to career and personal development and the advice that you receive from others. What I thought back in 1988 is that my personal development could be best guided by listening to and following advice from people who had achieved something similar to what it is that I was trying to achieve. What I would tell you is that it really seems obvious, but I want to emphasize the point. The only person that can determine your path is you. And I would advise you to not over-index on the advice that you receive from others. And I want to give you an illustration of that from my perspective. When I sat in your chair in 1988 and asked people like me for career advice, I was talking to a population that was born between 1933 and 1955. So think about that. I mean, the people that I looked up to as career mentors had as their formative events World War II and the World War II US economy and the dominance that that economy had. So those folks had a one cat company, one path view of career development, and they viewed technical development as being supreme, and they frankly de-emphasized the importance of interpersonal skills, communication skills, all of those qualitative elements that I emphasized. So my advice to you is do everything that you can now and throughout your career to seek a very diverse set of colleagues, friends, and experiences to help inform your perspective of what is appropriate for you. It's good to listen to a person like me, frankly, who's had some experiences, but don't over-index on what I am trying to give you as advice. Continue to look for all of those novel experiences and people to inform your view. Now, for me, I went to business school 3.5 years after I left Kettering. And going from from engineering school to business school was a life-changing experience for me. And frankly, it provided me with some of the novel thinking that I think has helped me throughout my career. So the advice is pretty straightforward, which is you ultimately have to plot your specific path. All right. So that is all I have by way of perspective, background, and advice. I would tell you from my experience, where you are right now is absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you appreciate how fortunate you are to be where you are, but the experiences that you have in front of you, what you can achieve are absolutely terrific. So you are in a great place and on a great path.